Here. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Looking forward to finishing the week of Chumash with you. I want to mention, I sent an email out from Chabad House. I don't know if you guys got it, about Rabbi Shais Taub. He is going, we're getting him to come speak for our Chabad House. It's going to be a week from Sunday night. It's a very special day. It's Yutas Kislev. It's the day we start learning the Tanya again. So he wrote a book on Tanya, and he has an overview of CDs. He's a very good intellect, very deep intellect that speaks in a lot of places today, very helpful. And he will be speaking for us as we finish and begin Tanya again. So hopefully everyone will join us Sunday night in about a week. Okay. So today is Friday. We're going to do the Chumash for Friday and Shabbos as we finish off reading this story, the amazing story, what happens with Yaakov. So Yaakov lived by his father-in-law's house, and first he had issues with marrying the daughters as his father-in-law changed which daughter he's going to marry, so he ends up marrying both of them. Then it's time to get paid, and his father-in-law keeps on switching the agreement that they made up upon, how much he should be getting paid. And Hashem keeps on saving his neck and helping him succeed. And here, Yaakov finally tells his wives, I need to leave my father-in-law, your father's house. He's very angry at me. He's not happy. He's getting very jealous of me, of my success. And there's no choice but for me to go. I have to leave. This is not the right place for me anymore. And he asks his wives, he says, what do you guys think? I mean, this is your parents' house. Are you ready to go? And they tell their husband, we don't belong here either anymore. Look, which father sells their daughters for to get some guy to work for him for 7 years in order to marry his daughter, to get his daughter's hand in marriage? So we can't stay here either. There's no place for us. Let's go. So what does Yaakov do? Yaakov sneaks away. Look what happens. But Yaakov gets up. He says, Banav, he lifts his sons, Vesnashav, and his wives, Ala Gamalim, on the camels. So he bought camels, because he sold the sheep that he did very well with, and he bought a lot of stuff, and he has these camels, and he loads, you ever pack your family into the car for a trip? So everybody in the car, let's go. So he puts the sons, he gets the sons on the camels first, then the wives. Rashi notes here that unlike Esav, when it says he traveled, he first put the wives in the car, in the traveling, and then took care of the sons. Rashi says Yaakov first get the sons on the camels, got them ready to go, and then he helped his wives get the camels ready for their trip. Yinag as Kol Mikneu, but he wasn't just traveling; he was moving with all his livestock. Remember, he became a very wealthy man after being penniless. He became extremely wealthy, and now he's about to travel, but he's traveling with a lot of stuff. He has all his possessions with him, all his cattle, and all the possessions. Asher Rachash, that he possessed. How did he get all his possessions? He came with nothing. Because he sold. Remember, he had one way of income. He only from getting the sheep, took those sheep that were born, sold them, and then bought manservants and women servants and camels and whatever else he had, and he bought all this stuff, and he's taking it all with him away as he's back to leave his father-in-law's house. Where is he going to? He's going to his father Yitzchak, Isaac Aviv Arza Canaan, who lives in Israel. So he's not in Israel, he's by Haran. Haran again is in Syria, it's north of Israel. He's going to travel south and go down home to his father, back to his parents' house, leave his wife's parents' house, and move back home to his parents' house. Verse 19, V'lavan halach, when did he leave? He was very strategic about his time that he's going to leave. Lavan halach ligzas is tzaynai. Where was Lavan when he decided to go? Oh, Laban was traveling to share the sheep. I guess it was like, a certain time during the year, which is the right time to share the sheep. And we know Laban himself had a lot of sheep because Yaakov had built up his business, was a tremendously successful farmer, shepherd, and he had a lot of sheep. Now, how far did he go to share his sheep? How far did the father-in-law Lavan go in order to share his sheep? He was a 3-day travel because, if you remember, we learned in the Chumash earlier, the sheep were kept 3 days away. They didn't want to mix up the sheep with Yaakov's sheep with other sheep. It was I guess his sheep lived or were stored or whatever where they kept the sheep was at a far distance. It was a 3 days to travel to get to those sheep, at least the way sheep travel. So he goes on this 3-day travel to get to his sheep. And at that time that Lavan leaves for 3 days to go on his business trip to share his sheep, Yaakov goes to the opposite direction for 3 days and starts heading home. But here is something interesting that took place. Look at verse 19. On the way out, they're packing up, right? Everyone's getting everything ready to go. Yaakov's packing everybody up. Here, you go on the camels, you go on here, get all our possessions. We're going to travel on this long trip back to Israel. We're going to travel from Syria to Israel. We're going to go back to our parents. Yaakov's parents, what happens? Rachel does something. Rachel does something very interesting. She goes into her father's house and she steals something from her father. What does she steal? That's a terafim asher lavia. She steals something that the Torah calls terafim. And Rashi tells us, what is that? That was something he had for idol worship. He was an idol worshiper, this guy Lavan. So she goes to his father's house and steals his idol. And why did she do it? Rashi says, because she didn't like the fact that her father was stealing idols. So on her way out, as she's leaving, she goes and takes one of her father's most important possessions. She's like, I'm going anyway. And she goes in and she takes the idol with her. And I guess, I don't know, maybe she thinks she's going to get her father to stop serving idols or somehow she moves along with it. You'll see. Her father will suspect her because he knows who he is. You'll see in a minute what happened. Vayignav Yaakov a slave Lavan Arami. And Jacob stole, and this is going to get the whole family into big trouble soon. Jacob stole the heart of his father-in-law Laban, the Aramite. That he's not leaving. So who does that? Who, right? Who leaves lives by somebody for 20 years, and then as soon as he leaves, he walks out and doesn't tell the guy that he's leaving. He goes and he sneaks out. Now we all know why. Yaakov will defend himself soon. It's obvious why Yaakov felt he had to do it. But Yivrachu, and he ran away. He left. And everything that he owned, Yaakov left. Vayakam v'yaver es Anor. They passed over this river. Vayasam es Panav Har Gilad, and they faced toward the Gilad, Mount Gilad. So you're going to see they're going to end up by this Mount Gilad. I guess there's some point of access, point of traveling by this mountain called the Mount Gilad as they're heading down towards Israel. Before they get into Israel, there's this mountain. They're heading in that direction. They're heading south. They're heading home. And remember, Laban has gone 3 directions on a business trip to shear his wool of his sheep somewhere else. But you go to Lavan, so verse 22. So it takes 3 days, but Yom HaShlishi for Laban to hear the message because he was 3 days travel. Yivarach Yaakov, so 3 days of travel. The guy, whoever comes in the news, they don't have there's no Facebook or or text or phone. How does he know what happened? So eventually someone else, I guess, is traveling. In 3 days, the message comes to Lavan and says, Lavan, by the way, you should just know, by the way, you heard the news that Yaakov left 3 days ago. He moved out of town. He moved away from home and he left. Yes, and he knew the direction he was going. So what does he do? He takes his brothers, his friends, his kinsmen, verse 23. He starts running after Yaakov. It's actually it's a 7-day travel. Why? Because remember, Laban lived 3 days in the opposite direction. Yaakov, meanwhile, was traveling for 3 days in south. So let's say Laban went north. I guess it was kind of like north. So the message to get to Laban took 3 days. Meanwhile, Yaakov was traveling south to Israel. It's for 3 days. So it's really 6 days plus the 7th day when he finds out and he starts running after him. But he makes it in 1 day. I guess they had fast horses or whatever. He went, he speeds, he's catching up to the family that ran away. And in 1 day, he makes up that whole 7-day distance where they are. He got some very good car or whatever kind of animals he had in those days. And he gets really quick. In 1 day, he makes the 7-day trip. And God, and obviously Laban is not happy. He's a very, very unhappy father-in-law, grandfather over here. So God comes to him in a dream, at night, and God tells him, I'm warning you, watch yourself. Be very careful. Watch very carefully what you say to this guy, Yaakov. Whether good or bad. Be careful, watch your word. Don't tell him good and don't tell him bad. So Rashi says, well, what's wrong with telling him good? Why didn't God just say in the message, Yaakov, Lavan, I'm warning you, don't say anything bad, or don't touch him, I'm warning you, but don't say anything good either. And he says, because Laban's good relative to Yaakov is bad. Such an evil guy. You don't want, you know what I mean? Like some people, I say this myself sometimes in life, says, God, please do me a favor, make me not need to come on to this person. You know, like in life, there's one guy, you'd rather not have a favor from this person either. You know, Hashem, please, I know you make us need other people, but not this guy. This is not the person. So don't do no bad and no good either. Watch what you tell him. No good, no bad. You better be very careful. Hashem tells him what happens over there when you meet up with him. Yasig Lavan es Yaakov, verse 25. So Laban meets up finally with Yaakov. The Yaakov Takas Island. They're on this mountain called Gilad, which remember Yaakov was traveling towards. And they get to this mountain. Yaakov goes and pitches his tents there for his whole mishpacha, his whole family there. Bahar v'Lavan Takas Achav, and Lavan also sets up his campment in this Bahar Gilad, in this Gilad mountain. So there must be this famous or this point of Gilad. They go to Gilad mountain and they set up all their stuff over there on the Gilad mountain. Verse 26. Vayomer Lavan the Yaakov. So Lavan tells Yaakov. And here's Lavan's talking to Yaakov. Ma'asisa, what do you do, Yaakov? V'tignefes levavi, you stole my heart. You took away my family like that. You just leave the house without saying goodbye. But tanagas b'noisai kishvuyas charav, and you treat my daughters like they're prisoners of war, like they're captives. Like what are they? Your slaves? You just leave and you just tell them to go with you and you just pull them. That is point number one of Laban's statement to Yaakov. Laban questioning Yaakov. Number two. Verse 27, why did you secretly run away? And you hid, you stole my thought. You conned me, you tricked me. You didn't tell me. I would have sent you. I would have made a goodbye party. Simcha, with happiness. I would have had songs. I would have had drums. I would have had a harp there. This is like, you stole my mind. I would have made you the class. I would have hired entertainers and music, and I would have had a whole band, and I would have made a whole bar mitzvah for you. That you're leaving. This is not the way you leave. It would have told me. I would have done it. And he continues. You didn't allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. You acted foolishly. You acted very foolishly, Yaakov, by doing this. And he says, verse 29, and he tells Yaakov about the dream he had. He says, look, I could have done you a lot of harm. I'm a strong guy. I guess I have a lot of methods here, and I could have really hurt you. But yesterday, your father, God of your father, God, Amar Eli, told me very clearly, warning you, God said, don't speak to me. Don't speak to him bad or good. So Rashi says, I have an army. I have soldiers. I have a tremendously powerful army. I could have wiped you out. I could have done tremendous damage. He really taught you a lesson for what you did. But Hashem warned me, and he told me that I'm not to do anything to you. I'm to be very careful with what I do to you. Now, so you went away. I get it. You want to leave, fine. I get it. You desired, you really wanted to go home to your father, fine. No qualms. The mechutanim, the other side of the family, you really missed home. I'm not against it. But why did you steal my gods? You stole my idols. You didn't have to do that. Fine, you really wanted to go and you left, and I shouldn't really maybe have complaints against you going back home to your parents because maybe you were homesick. You really wanted to go home, but you had to steal my idols on your way. So now Yaakov has to respond. So Yaakov responds. And he tells Laban. He says, I was afraid, because maybe you'll say, I'm going to steal your daughters from you. Had I told you I wanted to go, listen, it's not so simple. You tell them you'll make a party. I didn't know that. How do I know that you're going to make a party? All I know that my dear father-in-law, the way, the kind of guy I know you are, the way you've been acting, all I know is that you're going to tell me, don't take my daughters, you cannot go, whatever, to make me a hard time. So I didn't tell you. I went when you left. And regarding this idols that are stolen from you, and this here comes a very big mistake, or of course everything by Hashem does is on purpose. Listen what he tells him. Regarding the idol worship, the idols that were stolen, the person that stole it should die. In other words, I don't have it. Whoever has it, they should die. Neged achenu, take out all this stuff. Look, go through our tents, all our stuff. I have all my belongings here. Free inspection. Give me a good inspection here. Look through anything. Haker lecha, my muddy. Look through what's with me. The kach lecha, and take and take whatever's yours. Look, go ahead. You want to search? Let the police department into your house. They wanted to search, no problem. Search my car, search my house, search whatever you want. See if I've taken one item that belongs to you. And regarding this idol, I didn't touch it. Whoever has it should die. I'm telling you, I don't have it. And the Torah tells us Yaakov did not know that his wife Rachel stole them. He didn't know this whole story. His father was running after him, and he's trying. Rachel never said a word. She didn't tell Yaakov that she was the one who stole them. She went quietly before they left. She went and stole her father's idols. Nobody knew. Obviously, Yaakov didn't know, or he wouldn't have made the statement. And we'll see what's going to happen. So, but now he has free reign to search. So let's see if he finds him. Yaakov. First, Lavan comes into Yaakov's tent. Now, Rashi tells us, when we say Yaakov's tent, we really mean Rachel's tent, because Yaakov, his main wife was Rachel. So most of the time Yaakov lived, because if you have more than one wife, you got to split up the time. You live in this wife's house and this wife's house. So Yaakov's main tent was with the main wife, which was Rachel. So he first goes there, and Rashi tells us, because he knows that he suspects his daughter does this kind of job. If someone did it, he suspected that this sounds like Rachel kind of behavior to do. She was the one who could have pulled this off. But then he doesn't find it, so he goes by Leah. He goes to Leah's tent, and he goes to the two maidservants' tents. He got his 4 different houses to check out. And he does not find. He looks. And as he leaves Leah's tent, he goes back to Rachel's tent, because he suspects her. He didn't find it. Her goes to the other tent, doesn't find it in Leah's tent, goes back to Rachel's tent. It says, nah, it's got to be here. It's got to be here. Goes and looks for it. So where did Rachel hide them? How did he not find them? Right? He knows that Rachel's the one who touches, I guess, stuff that's not, touches everything. It might have touched his stuff. He suspects it's her. Rachel, verse 34. And Rachel took the idols. With the simim, she put them, where'd she hide them? The kar hagamel, in the pillow on the camel. So you would sit, right? The way you sit. I actually took a camel ride with my kids this past summer. They're very, very shaky. They walk. So you got to have a really good, it was actually pretty painful. You have a good blanket. So she has this pillow that she's sitting on. And she stuck the idols in the pillow. And she sits at them. So Lavan's going around looking, and Rachel's sitting in the car, sitting on the camel, sitting exactly on the idols. And he looks and he looks and he looks and he can't find them. So she found a good hiding spot to smuggle in this idol. But and she tells her father, "Don't get angry at me, my master. That I'm not getting up. I'm staying on my camel. I have women things going on with me, whatever that means. Period. So on." Obviously, he's not going to ask any questions. I can't get up. There's some women stuff going on with me. Father's not asking any questions. She sits on the camel. He looks, doesn't find it. And Yaakov gets angry. Yaakov gets pissed. Yaakov gets very angry at Lavan. Now he lets him have it. So we don't find, it's very interesting, we don't find Yaakov getting angry at Lavan earlier, right? He keeps on swindling him and so on. Maybe he didn't, but the Torah is telling him finally Yaakov gives him a piece of his mind. Yaakov gets angry. And he quarreled, he argued with Lavan. It became a debate. And Yaakov stands up and talks to Lavan. He says, Lavan, Ma Pishai, what sin, what transgression, what are you doing to my family, mister? What sin did I do that you ran after me? You looked, and you ran after me. Here you are going through all my belongings, literally walking into my personal bedroom, right? You're walking into my tent, and you're walking into all my wife's tents, and this is like we're like the FBI is raiding our house. What did we do? You felt all my things. You stuck your nose into all of my stuff. Mamatasa, what did you find? From anything in your house. What did I take that belonged to you? Sim nagadachai. Put it down in the front of our brothers, of our kinsmen. Put it down here in the middle. Let them prove who the judgment. Put something down. What did you find? You went to search through all my belongings. Put it down here in the middle and tell us what it is. Let's see what it is that you found that you came to search me. You're suggesting that I stole something. By the way, Yaakov doesn't know that his wife stole the idols at the time. The Esrim Shana, and then he goes on, Yaakov says, for 20 years, I worked for you for 20 years. Your goats, your ewes, your goats, your rams, Loi Shikelu, they never miscarried, they never aborted, they were always healthy. They always had their babies healthy. I never eaten the rams, the old ones, the younger. They didn't touch anything when I worked for you. For 20 years, I worked for you. 14 years for your daughters, and then 6 years to make some profit for myself. I haven't touched your animals. None of them miscarried. Look, Teifa, verse 139. I never brought home a wounded animal. Like they got hurt from a lion or a wolf would have attacked them in the wild. You could imagine. So they never brought home anything that was damaged. If something would have happened to an animal, you would have deducted it from my salary. Who would you have held responsible for the animal that got hurt? You would have blamed me. If anything would have happened at night and by day, you would have blamed me. And he says that, right, if it was stolen at night or it was stolen by day, you would have held me responsible. You would have made me pay for that. I was consumed. My energy was sapped from me. From the heat of the day, being a shepherd is not an easy job. The Kerach Balayla, and at night it was freezing. It sapped my energy. The cold at night and the heat by day. My hard work. I was worked so hard. And my sleep wandered from my eyes. I couldn't get a normal night's sleep. That's how hard I worked for you. It's been 20 years. In your house, that I worked for you. I worked 14 years for your daughters, and 6 years for your sheep. And you conned me, and you switched my salary 10 times 10, 100 times. You switched my salary. If the stipulation was that I could have the speckled, and you said it's spotted, and then you went from ring to stripe, and you did not stop conning and scamming and stealing my thing. Not for the God of my grandfather Abraham. And the fear of Isaac, he doesn't call him the God of Isaac. He says the fear of Isaac, because when somebody's alive, you don't say God of that person only after they pass away. You then kind of cement it in and say God of that person. Yaakov, although God had said God of Isaac, which we explained a few days ago, Jacob would not have the chutzpah to say that. So he says, the God, if not for the God of my grandfather Abraham, if not for the fear, meaning the God of my father Yitzchak, I would have left your house a penniless man had God not constantly protected me in the business deal going on. This against Kapai, it only hard work. Hashem saw how hard I work for you. And last night he rebuked you. He gave you a little bit of rebuke by warning you to talk to me nicely. So basically, this is like a real speech that Yaakov gives him back. He says, "It's really not nice how you're treating me. You've abused me basically constantly the entire time, and now here you are claiming I stole something for you, but I've only worked and treated you with the nicest and greatest respect." Yan Lavan, so Lavan responds, Yaakov, he says to Jacob, "This is why you give me this whole speech. Why you think I'm going to hurt you and your kids? The daughters are my daughters and the sons are my sons. You're talking about my daughters, my grandchildren. They're my sheep. And everything you see is mine." In other words, I feel for it. Your possession is my possession. Why would I hurt you or your possession? Why would I hurt them or their children? Why would I want to take away their sheep? Your kids are my kids. Your spouses are my kids. Your children are my grandchildren. You think I would try to hurt them? So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a covenant. And you to be a testimony between me and you. We're going to set up like a peace treaty, a deal over here. Yaakov took a stone and he set it up as a monument. Took a stone in this mountain, this Gilad mountain. Yaakov tells his kinsmen, his brothers, meaning his children, who were like his brothers because they always supported their father, they took care of him. Look to Avanim, get a lot of stones. They took a whole bunch of stones. And they made this pile on top of by the Gilad mountain. They ate there on this pile of stones that they gathered. So the family, Yaakov and his family, gets together and they make this big monument that's recognizable, that will be rememberable. And Lavan called this mountain and this little pile they made Yegar Sahadusa. Yaakov called it Galed, and Yaakov called it Galed, which stands for the acronym of Gal, which means a pile, an aid, and a testimony. So they set up this kind of a monument, like when someone makes a monument. And Mitzvah, which is on Mount Gilad, this place over there, Amar Yatzav Hashem, and he said, God should look and testify now. Beini v'necha between me and you. When we hide from each other, when we're not together anymore, I'm gonna walk my own way, you're gonna walk your own way. We're gonna separate. We have this kind of mountain in between us, this monument that we've established. And we're not gonna see each other anymore on both sides of this monument. We're gonna set up this monument. And Lavan tells Yaakov, if you afflict my daughters, meaning you don't give them their proper conjugal rights, right, that a husband has to a wife. If you hurt my daughters, you're taking more women, and you already have 4 wives here. If you take more wives and besides the ones that you already have, Eini Shimanu, and no one else sees it, I'm not gonna, because he's separate. You're not living under my roof anymore. I don't see what's going on. Kim, God will see Eid Beini V'Nechem be a witness to me and you that that you shouldn't do damage. So the 4 girls that you're married to, my 2 daughters, Rachel and Leah, and also the maidservants, which Rashi tells us here, Laban, actually, they were his daughters too. They were born from Laban's maidservants, so the maidservants were actually his own daughters. So if you take any more wives, you're not to take any more wives, and you're not to afflict my daughters and give them the rights that a husband needs to give to a wife. Verse 51, Vayomer Lavan Yaakov, and Laban says back, it continues to Yaakov, Hine Agalaza, here's this pile, this monument. Hazev v'hine amatzev, and here is the monument and this pile, Shayaresi Beini ve'Minecha, that I have cast between me and you. And Rashi says again, Laban's taking credit for something he didn't do. That Yaresi, it means I cast down, that I have cast down. Eida Galazeh, and it's a testimony. Ve'eda matzev asher ani lo yavar elecha. I will not pass this monument as a Galazeh. And you will not pass this. We will not pass this monument towards each other. To hurt each other. So for business, we can come and see each other. You'll come back to your in-laws' house. I will come to you for good business dealings. But this is a testimony that we will not pass towards each other in order to hurt each other. And that's the monument as testimony. God of Abraham and God of Abraham's brother Nachor, who is Lot's grandfather. Yishbitu will judge, Beinenu will be a judge between us. So the God of their father, and Yaakov swore into God of Isaac. He calls it the fear of Isaac, referencing the God of Isaac, that they're going to make this treaty and there's going to be peace between the 2 of them. And Yaakov offered a sacrifice on the mountain. And he called his brothers, his kinsmen, his children, to eat bread with him. And they ate bread and they slept, they lodged, they stayed on that mountain. So they had a meal there. The families, I guess, having their last meal together, and they're sleeping there. One more night, they're camping out together on this Mount Gilad, where they made this whole monument, and they're making this peace treaty. Yashkin woke up in the morning. He kissed the next morning his daughters and his sons. And he blessed them. And Lavan returned to his place. And Yaakov walked in his way, left this place, and as he is walking, all of a sudden, angels of God greet him. He sees angels of God that are coming to greet him. Why were they greeting him? Because if you remember, there was a Rashi that spoke last week that when Yaakov left Israel, because he grew up by his father Isaac, as an older man already, he left to get married to find his 2 wives, right? And to go meet his wives. And the angels of Israel are not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael. It's very interesting. Even the angels can't leave Israel. Angels of Israel have to stay in Israel. So they left. And here, Yaakov is coming back to Israel. So the angels come out to greet him, to protect him, to take care of him. Yaakov sees this new group of angels coming. He called the place Machanoim because there's 2 camps. There's the camp of the angels that escorted him, that were angels from out of Israel, and the new group of angels that were coming to greet him and welcome him to Israel are coming to greet him. So he saw the 2 camps at one time. They called them Machanoim. That's why, they call in Hebrew, or at least in I know in the yeshivas, they call illumination when you have 2 groups of people. They call it Machanoim because it's 2 camps. The game is played by 2 different groups, and that is where the word comes from. It's actually from this verse, the idea of Machanoim. And that is the end of today's Chumash. Any questions or comments on this fascinating story that we have between Yaakov and his father-in-law? They're going to say goodbye. We're going to read this story forever in the Haggadah We remember the story of Yaakov living by this swindler, by this crook, by Laban, and he survived. And the Jews were just being made the Jewish nation. They just returning into a few sons and a daughter and the wives, and this is the foundation, beginning of the Jewish people. And Yaakov is now heading back home to Israel, which a lot of other interesting stories will take place. Rachel will die because of the curse of Yaakov, and Yosef will be sold by his brothers. All that's going to take place in the coming weeks as we continue to learn the Chumash. Any questions or comments? Yes, Ira. I feel like I know what your question's about. I saw your face when I read it in the Chumash. Yes.
I don't know. So Rachel stole the idols, right?
She wanted to get her father to stop serving idols. So she's like, maybe she felt it was an opportunity. You know, you're crossing the border, steal the idols and take it with you, and your father won't have it anymore.
Okay, or she could have just smashed them, or she could have buried them somewhere. Why would she? I mean, idols, you know, she doesn't believe in idols at this point.
Are you saying she should have better just destroyed it?
Why take them with you if there's something that you feel is like a negative thing? Why take them with you on your travels?
It's a good question. Why would you, like, if someone would steal something bad, they would get rid of it. They wouldn't take it with them. Right. I don't know.
I mean, did Laban come after them because he was upset she broke the idols, or did he go after them?
Listen, this is, the whole thing's planned by Hashem that she should die because they need her buried there where she is, right? I'm just saying, like, it's still interesting. It's all destiny. Like, it was meant to happen. This is the destiny of what was meant to happen. It's a good question. I don't know why.
I mean, I'd be happy to leave them there and smash them there. Why take it with you?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. So it's almost like it's scary. Maybe what was she thinking? You know, why would she keep them with her? Why would she have these?
Did she still believe in idols?
No, God forbid. It seems like not. Rashi's saying clearly not that the opposite. She didn't want. She knew that idols are so bad that she took them from her father.
Well, why you're going on a trip, a traveling thing? Why take something with you that's so bad?
Right. I don't know. Maybe I'll see if I have a minute to look it up this Shabbos.
Okay.
Like, try to give the answer on see if I see something. I'll share with you on Sunday. But that's a great question. I like it. Good question. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Wait, is that the question you thought I was going to ask? Or what
Yeah. I saw you make a face when I said that, when I spoke about the idols. I thought you were shocked that she was stealing her father's idols. Like, what was she thinking by doing it? It's funny that Yaakov suspected her. He knew that she was the one who maybe touched something without being allowed to touch it. Like, it's interesting. You know, you all have a kid in the family that when something happens.
Laban. You mean Laban?
What?
Laban, not Yaakov.
I mean Laban, right. You all have a kid in the family that when something happens, you right away suspect that kid, unfortunately. Maybe that's not good of the parents. But, you know, there's a certain kid, something goes wrong, you're like, oh no, what did that kid do? So she knew it. He was right. He wasn't wrong intuition. And by the way, it kind of got Laban much more upset. You know what I mean?
I'm wondering if that's why he went after them more so because he was upset over that.
Well, he says two reasons. He says, first of all, you took my family, you stole my heart. Let me say goodbye. And secondly, if you're going, and I get it because you miss your parents, then at least why you have to steal my idol?
Right.
It kind of made it much worse. Probably the fact that the idol was stolen, but again, Rachel was trying to do, and she's going to pass away from the story. It teaches us that we have to be very careful with our words. You know what I mean? Like Yaakov, of course, Yaakov's a tzaddik, and whatever he's going to say is going to come true. But they're very important lessons learned from the story, actually, very important lessons. You have to be really careful with what you say because it could really kill people. What you say, you might not have the power spiritually like Yaakov, but it could destroy a person's life. So I guess it's a very important lesson for us from this Chumash, is telling us that how careful we have to be. The Torah tells us straight out. It says Yaakov didn't know that his wife stole the thing. Had he known, he wouldn't have done it. So we have to be very careful, especially when we're giving a curse. We have to be very careful with what we say. Regarding today's Tanya, I'm not teaching it because I didn't understand it. So Tanya's too difficult for me these days. I think maybe until it gets a little easier, we're going to take a little break. We're starting Tanya new. Brand new Tanya again on Sunday with Hashem's help. On Yutas Kislev, we're going to start the book from the beginning, all the way from the beginning. And on Sunday, as I said, Sunday night, we're going to have a speaker who wrote some books on Tanya, explaining the Tanya. Rabbi Shei's Taub. So you don't want to miss that. You just got to register online and put your name in, and it'll automatically give you the link, the Zoom link, so you can join us Sunday night. So definitely, those are learning Tanya with me. You want to hear this guy speak. He knows Tanya from the people in the world today who know Tanya really, really well. And we'll have Q&A so we can talk with him afterwards, ask him any questions we have. Thank you all for joining me. Have a very good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I forgot to mention, Avi. I didn't mention before, today's class is dedicated by Avi. You weren't on. Thank you, Avi, for dedicating today's class and making the classes possible. Toda rabba, Avi.
Toda rabba.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you. Have a good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you all soon.
Bye.